Everyone, so this document here is what you should have open on your iPad. At each of your tables, you are going to see topic cards, and each of the topic cards will have these words on them. One of the cards says geographic distribution, one says fossil record, one says comparative anatomy, another says comparative embryology, and another one says comparative biochemistry. So those are the different pieces of evidence. Then you have a bunch of cards, and they have examples and numbers on them. There are 2 cards that would fit under evidences that are geographic distribution. There are a total of 5 cards that would fit under the examples of evidence for fossil record. There is also a picture card. So in this box right here, you're going to take a picture of the card that is evidence of the fossil record, and you're going to put that picture right in there on your document. You can see that that continues on with comparative anatomy and comparative embryology. This here is where you're going to have an image that shows comparative anatomy. You're going to take a picture of that card and insert that card right in this box here. And then comparative embryology. There's a picture again on one of the cards, and you're going to insert that photo right here. So just a couple of reminders. Comparative anatomy, think of anatomy as body parts, as a reminder for you. And embryology, think about that as developmental, when something is developing inside as a fetus. And then biochemistry, think about the chemistry pieces, things like our DNA and our cells. Those are all chemical components that are living. So your substitute is going to give you about 10-15 minutes to try and fit the cards all into their correct record, and then they will go over the answer key with you on this video. Okay, so let's start to go over the answers here. I did color code them, and I did number them by the number of card. So geographic distribution, you should have put card number 1 and card number 10 under there. Distribution of plants and animals across different habitats, but yet animals living in similar environments will also see similar traits. So that is part of, those 2 are your geographic distribution cards. For the fossil record, you should have an image from card number 6. It was a picture of some fossils that you would put into this box right here. And then cards number 3, 18, 15, 5, and 21 are all examples of evidence of the fossil record. So the fossil record is a record of species that lived long ago. It does show us that ancient species are very similar to our current species. It does show us ancestry of organisms and the patterns of evolution that we see happening. Things like feathers, derived traits, do not appear in fossils of common ancestors, and traits like teeth and nails that are more primitive that appear in ancestral forms. Those are all examples of the fossil record. Comparative anatomy. You should have a picture that came from number 12. So if you need to, take a picture of card number 12 and insert it into this spot right here. You should have number 2, 16, 7, 22, 17, and 14 there. So comparative anatomy, vestigial structures are a way that we compare anatomy, and they are going to be reduced in their form or function. Penguins have wings that are not for flight, whereas parrots do use their wings for flight, so that is a difference in their anatomy. Homologous structures is another anatomy in similarity that we can compare. This is where we have similar structures that are inherited from a common ancestor. That's a definition from our notes also. Number 22, bird wings and reptiles' forelimbs are very similar in their structure, but they are very different in their function. Analogous structures also fits under that comparative anatomy. They're used for the same purpose, but they have different structures. And then finally, birds' wings and insects, they have same function, but they have very different anatomy and structure to them there. The next one, comparative embryology. Again, if you don't have a picture of the card from number 20 inserted, go ahead, take that picture and insert it here. You should have 3 cards, number 4, 11, and 9, that are comparative and embryology. So we can look at the embryo and see its early development and compare that early development. And when we look at that early development, we can see homologous structures that develop. So remember up here, homologous structures that are very similar to one another. And we see them developing at the same phases of development in all organisms. And then something that's really interesting is all vertebrates. Those are organisms that have a backbone. They all have tails and phalangeal pouches during that embryology development. So yes, you did once have a tail, you did once have basically gills, but those, as you developed further into your development, those developed into other things. For example, the gills, these actually go into the inner bones of your ear. That's what they develop into for us humans. But they were very similar during that embryological development. And then finally, we've got that comparative biochemistry. So you should have that. We see ancient species sharing common amino acid sequences. We see them sharing common DNA and RNA sequences. And then we can also see the proteins. That's what molecular features are there. We can see the proteins are going to be similar and related to what we physically see in those organisms. So we can compare those proteins even. So take a minute. Make sure that you have all of these correct. Check with your shoulder partner. Make sure you've got a good understanding of all of these different evidences and how they fit under this particular type of evidence of evolution, because you are going to take a quiz on this next.